Hey guys, welcome to Grad Coach TV, where we demystify and simplify the oftentimes confusing world of academic research. My name's David, and today I'm chatting to one of our trusted coaches, Amy, about 5 top tips to keep in mind when you're doing your topic ideation. This discussion is based on one of our many articles over at the Grad Coach blog. So, if you'd like to find out more about topic ideation, head over to gradcoach.com/blog. Also, if you're looking for a helping hand with your dissertation, thesis, or research project, be sure to check out our one-on-one private coaching service, where one of our coaches will be with you step by step through your research journey. For more information and to book a free consultation with one of our friendly coaches, be sure to check out gradcoach.com. So Amy, welcome to the Coachcast. It's absolutely great to have you here.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me.
Right, Amy, so today we're talking about 5 tips to help us out in topic ideation. And the first tip is to hit the literature, and then once you've done that, to leverage the FRIN sections in literature. Amy, what the heck is FRIN?
Right. So your very first step is just to read. So you want to engage with the literature. You're not expected to know exactly what you want to write about right out the gate. No one expects that. No one has a finely tuned idea of what they want their research to be right at the start. That's perfectly normal. And rather than trying to just, sort of intellectually figure it out, get out of your head and just start reading. So that's the very best thing. From the literature is where you will get ideas. So read. Reading is everything. And the way you do that, Google Scholar, go to Google Scholar and just type in some general keywords, and a lot of research will emerge, and just start reading. And you don't have to read every word of every article, the beginning and the end. So in the abstract of these articles, there will be sort of a summary of the methodology and the findings. So what you really want to concern yourself with is what these different research articles say. There needs to be future research in this area. So that's kind of telling you, right, ideas, giving you ideas right there. So when you read these articles, it's typically at the end of the article, a recommendations section for future research. Okay, so that's why we say FRIN, just as a way for you to remember that as you start reading and you're getting overwhelmed by all of this information, all of these articles. Don't get overwhelmed. Just read the abstract and then read the end. Go to the recommendations section where those authors are talking about future research is needed. Further research is needed. Okay, that's basically telling you possibilities for ideas for you. So that's why we say, go to Google Scholar, just start with 5 articles and read those, get a sense of their design and how the gaps in literature that those articles have, identified, because the gaps in the literature is really where you're going to want to, address in your research. So those can just kind of give you some ideas by reading other people's research. And also when you're building out your design, you're building off of existing research. So there's going to be something that is been done in at least one aspect of what you want to do. Even if it's not exact, it's going to be in some way similar. And that's enough. Read those articles, and that will give you a sense of where to go with your article. So, David, how would you suggest using Google Scholar in terms of the citations?
I think that's great to think about the citations. And the reason why that's important is, say you've been looking at a FRIN section, you found a really cool research idea. The worry that we have is that it's already been assessed or done and dusted. And so the best way to determine if that's the case is to just search for that article on Google Scholar and then take a look at the citations. There'll be a little number there, 169 citations. If you click on that link, it will then take you to all of the studies that have actually cited that piece of work. And you can just work through that to make sure that the idea hasn't been assessed. And if that comes out, then you're on a good line. Another place that you can look is in review papers as well. So if you have an idea of a broad research area you're interested in, but have no idea what topic you want to develop, take a look at a review paper. They give you an idea of what's happening in a field, and their FRIN sections are often enough gold. You can take the ideas that you see there and develop them further into your own research. So our second tip is to leverage your university's resources. Amy, what are these resources that we can use, and how do they help us to find topic ideas?
Yeah, so you really want to extract as much from the resources that are available to you. And so, of course, we have Google Scholar that's available to everyone. But in university, you have also their online library, right? Which is going to have a lot of not only public research, but also research specific to your university, which is fantastic. You definitely want to take advantage of that. As you're coming up with ideas and you're trying to think about how should I design my study, especially if you've never done anything like this before, then read papers from people who've done it, from other students who have gone through similar or maybe exact type assignment guidelines that have been presented to you. So the way you do that is you go to your online, university's library. They'll have a database specific to that university's thesis. So take a look at those, and those will give you ideas. And once you more finely tune your topic and your idea, you can go back and look to see if there's similar research. I know that really helped me. And I was doing at the beginning of my process, of course, by the end, I was doing something completely different. But at the beginning, I was doing something that was more internationally based, comparative education. And it was really kind of unique. And I thought, oh, there's no way there's going to be any thesis that is going to be similar to mine. And lo and behold, I looked at my university's database, and there was, and it was so helpful because I could see the way that this person designed their research. Now, I didn't imitate what they did, because in fact their study was a quantitative study and I wanted to do qualitative study. But what was helpful about that was to see in her at the end of that paper, what she recommended for future research was actually a qualitative study. So her study was quantitative. It was on something to do with international comparative education. And then by the end, she's saying for future study, I recommend a qualitative, case interviews. And that was exactly what I wanted to do. So that was really helpful, and it was really validating to read that, someone who had done research in this area was saying we can use, there's a gap here to fill. So you really want to use your online university's library database for that. Don't forget about that. Use whatever databases you can get your hands on, because the more you read, the more ideas that you'll have. Now, at some point, you've got to stop the reading and start the writing, right? But at the beginning, anyway, this will help. So then you have your ProQuest, your EBSCOs, and whatever databases you have access to. So what other ideas, David, would you suggest in terms of just trying to come up with a topic and move forward?
So this is going to sound a little bit strange, but definitely consider stalking potential supervisors and department chairs. They're the individuals in your department that are doing research in your fields. And so take a look at the website, see what research they're doing, see what their students are doing. And that's a really, really good way to get an initial idea of what's being researched in your department. And that can be super helpful. I know in my case, that's how I found my supervisor. And then I went and had a meeting with them, and we developed a topic together based on my interests. But really, don't feel bad about stalking potential supervisors online. The other thing you can do is also take a look at other students. Talk to individuals in your cohort. They're going through the same process that you are. And even if they're not interested in the same topic, they're an excellent sounding board for whether an idea sounds legit or whether it might be something that you need to go back to the drawing board for.
Yes, that is such a good idea of just talking it out with other people, especially with people who can empathize with you and have their own ideas and are going through the same experience and having this sort of the same assignment parameters as you, because maybe you're not understanding something the way that they're understanding it. And you need to have all of that clarified right at the beginning, especially to know exactly what's being expected of you. So don't be shy about that. It's always helpful to talk to people. I think sometimes, I know for me, I just was trying, maybe it's a pride thing, I don't know, but at the very beginning, you're thinking, I don't want to, sort of show that vulnerability of like, I'm not sure what to do. Well, no, here's a secret. Nobody knows, right? So
Mm,
it's okay. It's okay to say, look, I'm not sure about this. In fact, it's best to do that right at the beginning, because at some point you are going to get to that point, and then maybe it'll be a little late to kind of backtrack. So reach out to people, to get out of your head and start expressing in what you're thinking about, and then you'll be surprised how quickly that
mm.
general idea that you have will really become a research question.
So the first two tips that we spoke about were very much about identifying potential ideas. But it's really important that you then go on to refine these ideas and choose an idea that's really going to be helpful for you. So, when you're refining ideas, the third tip that we have is to choose a topic that's of genuine interest to you, that you're really going to engage with. Amy, why is it so important to pick an interesting topic?
Yeah, this research that you're undergoing isn't like a typical assignment, right? This is something that you're going to be committed to for a while. There's quite a bit of a time investment. And you also want to, in your research, convey a genuine interest. And the best way to do
Mm,
that is to have genuine interest, right? And so I think one of the problems that students have when they're just starting out is not really identifying themselves yet as a scholar.
mm,
And essentially, by the end of your research, you will be the expert in whatever your research is about. You are the emerging scholar here. So I think sometimes students have a tendency to think their idea is doesn't look enough like the status quo. It isn't, it doesn't fit the mold. And I would say, you know what? That's okay. Sometimes it pays not to be safe, right? Of course, it has to fit within your university guidelines. It has to be approved by your supervisor. But if there's a niche, if there's something that you're interested in, for example, if you want to study how virtual reality software is being used to teach English as a second language learners, then go for it. Don't be afraid to do a new idea or a new take on an old idea.
I think that's really great advice, Amy. And it's something that I personally did myself. In my master's, I came across a topic that was super interesting to me. And in my excitement, I went to my current supervisor and said, "Hey, can we dive into this?" And she was totally okay with it. And so I found my research topic and I was really interested in it for my PhD. And that was a good thing because over time, my interest in the topic did wane because I did quite a lengthy PhD. And so it's good to have that initial high level of excitement and interest to really get you going and to get you through the waning period. It's also worth noting that projects will evolve over time as well, particularly in the qualitative space. You won't expect your topic to stay exactly the same right at the start.
Yes, that's a good point. You think that you're starting at one point, right? And you think that this it feels messy, right? It feels messy at the beginning and it feels like maybe you're not doing it correctly, but that it's supposed to evolve. It's supposed to change as you refine it more and more as you go. So that's the messiness is a part of the natural evolution of this process for sure.
So, our fourth tip is to choose a topic that plays towards your strengths. So, Amy, what are the strengths that we can keep in mind when considering research topics?
Right. So after you've chosen a topic, obviously you need to think about how you're going to design your study. So in my mind, the most important part of the study is your methodology section, is your methods section. What's the data? How are you going to analyze it? So the very first thing that you need to think about is if you want to do a qualitative study, a quantitative study, or perhaps a mixture of both, mixed methods. So qual, quant, or mixed. So you'll hear these terms quite a bit. What does that mean? So qualitative methodology is more of a personal engagement with people. So most often qualitative means you're going to be doing interviews. This doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in-person interviews. This can be over Zoom or whatever, but these are interviews or in-person observations. Quantitative is when you have a database that you're going to look at, analyze. So when you're starting off, just at the very beginning point, don't try to be someone that you're not. So I know for me personally, I'm not a numbers person. So when I was doing my dissertation, right at the beginning, I knew, there's no way. So I'm a qualitative person through and through. But I love qualitative methodology. I love that you can get at the nuance, the gray areas between the black and the white of what sometimes numbers offers. But then there are numbers people out there who love looking at digging into the data and playing around with variables. So you have to, be okay with who you are with that and lean into that. And then right at the beginning stage of your research design, though, even right at the beginning with the topic, you need to think about where are you going to get your data from? So do you have access to potential participants? So this is a big concern. So this is difficult sometimes to recruit participants when you don't know anyone. So you really have to think about your resources. Who do you know that might know people? If you don't personally know someone, who do you know who might know people? Potential participants who you might recruit. Your data is everything. So without data, you don't have a study. I know for me, when I started my dissertation, I wrote my methodology section I was going to do a case study with 20 different participants. Well, then I had trouble recruiting participants. I didn't personally know anyone, so I had to go through all these different avenues, which is fine. That's a part of the process, is that you're going to go through all these different channels to try to find people, and you got to be kind of creative with that sometimes. But I ended up with only 5 participants that I actually used for my study. And I had to go back and sort of redesign that whole chapter. So my point is, like, right at the beginning, you need to first identify, are you a qualitative person, quantitative person, or do you want to do a little mixture of both? How do you see yourself engaging with the data? And then where is your data going to come from? This is something you need to think about right at the start, because without data, you don't have a study.
Yeah, I can't agree more. You really got to think about data, what you're going to be collecting, and whether it's feasible. I know from my PhD, I was doing recordings of social insects, and that sounded great on paper. In practice, it was a nightmare. I had to go through a ton of data collection, and it was a very tedious data collection process. Had I thought about it a bit more, I could have considered, other approaches that would have given me the same data, but at least done it in a more easy way and prevented a lot of gray hairs. Another thing you could consider, and this is completely not mine, but a student that I helped, they were working on some profitability in private companies. And they had a really great research topic idea. But the further along we got through the process, the more we realized that we just weren't going to be able to get that profitability data from private companies. Unexpectedly, or probably quite reasonably, people don't really want to be talking about the profits their companies are making if they're not listed. So it's just something you really want to keep in mind, the data that you're collecting and how easy that will be to collect. It's okay for it to be a little difficult, but we don't want to be jumping over crazy hurdles just to answer a research question when there are easier ways.
Yes, that's a really good point. You don't want to try to force something that's just not going to happen either. It might be important, and this could be a pivoting point for you, and you kind of have to just, roll with the punches. But that also made me think about using your resources. I remember going through the process and being kind of shy about reaching out to different people and saying, hey, can you help? Do you know anyone who might be interested in participating in this study? You can't be shy about it. You really have to just start reaching out to people, and you can't do that too soon. just in terms of just trying to get a general sense of where your data might come from. Use your resources. Really think about people that who are in some way connected to this topic, to your research, and start reaching out to them. That will really be helpful. But you can't be shy about that. And people are generally receptive. They'll say, yes, I can help, or no, I can't. So there's really nothing to lose there.
I think that's a really good point. And I mean, just to even take it a step back before we even get to data, you can just reach out to people to act as sounding boards for your topic ideas. As you're in this refining stage, you can just talk to people and they'll be able to help you sense check if your topic is feasible, if the data access. I mean, that's how we identified that issue with the profitability, is by speaking through the problem, we were able to identify where that limitation might be and adjust accordingly. All right, so our fifth and final tip is to just keep it simple. Amy, why is it so important that we do actually just keep it simple when refining and deciding on our topics?
Yes, I love this topic because this is one of the most common, it's not necessarily a mistake, but it's something that I think students struggle with at the beginning, is thinking that you have to change the world with your research, and you don't. In fact, that shouldn't be the goal, because you don't want to overcomplicate your research design, because you're really going to get yourself, involved in something that you're not maybe ready to do, capable of doing. And so I think what your supervisors want to see, what your readers will be more engaged with, is just a very well written research. So the way to do that is by identifying a topic of interest, in a methodology that feels natural to you, and then keeping it straightforward and simple. I think doing something that's more straightforward and simple, but doing it well, is going to earn you higher marks than if you do something that's overly complicated. And so this is just really one of the most common errors that we see with students, is trying to connect all the dots, right? I know that's what I was trying to do when I was writing my dissertation, is, this could be related to this, could be related to this, could be related to this. And so you just kind of find yourself, pulling from all kinds of different research and making all of these points, because you just naturally get interested in your own topic, right? And you do research, you're digging and digging, and then you make this discovery, and then this leads you over here in this direction, and then this discovery leads you over here. I think this is one of the most difficult parts about a research design, is staying focused and making sure that your research questions and your research objectives, your literature review and your methodology section is tightly focused. And how do you do that? By having a topic that's straightforward, that's, not, as we say, reinventing the wheel, but just finding a new way, right, to expand on what's already been written is enough. Okay. Again, your supervisors, the most important thing that they want to see is that you've learned how to design research, and that your design is tightly focused. Not that you have all of these, outlandish, complicated ideas, but rather that you know how to design a study. That's the most important thing.
That is so true. And that's probably one of the key aspects of keeping it simple that I like to keep in mind, particularly when I'm helping clients, is to say, what can we realistically do in this time frame? And that's not to say, I can only do X, Y, Z because I have 6 months, but it's that you can do enough work correctly and well in those 6 months to do a great research project. And so really we want to be keeping in mind, if you've got 6 months to do your master's, you don't have time to do a longitudinal study. You can't necessarily go back to the same sample repeatedly. In that case, cross-sectional is perfectly fine. And that's a reasonable approach to take. Another thing to keep in mind is the methodology you're doing. It's kind of the thing at the moment that everyone wants to be doing, mixed methods, because it's, giving you the whole holistic view. But the problem with that is you end up splitting yourself and splitting your focus. And so it might be worthwhile just doing a mono method, starting qual, starting point, and you can always pursue further research going on. But at a master's level, you're learning to be a researcher. At a PhD level, you're showing that you are a researcher. You're not expected to be sort of top dog and changing the world. These are topics that interest us and topics that we want to keep simple, manageable, and doable within our time frame.
Yes, exactly. And it does seem like that mixed methods approach does come up a lot. And I don't know if maybe students, you think, well, I'm not sure if I want to do qual, I'm not sure if I want to do quant, so I'll just cover all my bases and do both. I would definitely suggest not doing that, because by the end of this, you're going to have done so much research and really be an expert in this research design. And like David said, you're not expected to be an expert in everything. So it's better, I think, to choose one or the other and really just effectively engage with that methodology, as opposed to trying to become an expert in everything, because you just don't have enough time to do that.
Great points. So, Amy, thanks so much for joining us today. It was really helpful getting insight from you on topic generation and ideation.
Thank you, David. It was a pleasure.
All right, so that's pretty much a wrap on this episode of Grad Coach TV. Remember, if you're looking for more information about the research process, be sure to check out our blog at gradcoach.com/blog. There you can also get access to our free dissertation and thesis writing mini course that covers all the basics you need to get started on your research journey. Also, if you're looking for a helping hand in your dissertation, thesis, or research project, be sure to check out our one-on-one private coaching service, where you can work with one of our friendly coaches, just like Amy. For more information and to book a free consultation, head over to gradcoach.com. Well, that's it for today. Until next time, good luck.